Hello, my friends. Welcome, welcome. In PMP Journey today, we're going to talk about the QALT mindset. It's part of your mindset as you prepare for the PMP exam. The QALT mindset is a positive mindset that helps you maximize any quizzes or mock exams that you're taking. So what we're going to do in the next few minutes is talk about the QALT mindset. Let me ask you this question. How many mock exams and quizzes have you taken in the past week? How many did you pass? How many did you fail? If you're weighing success based on how many you passed as you're preparing for this test, you are doing it wrong. Do not judge success based on the quizzes that you pass. So what do I mean by QALT mindset? QALT simply means questions as a learning tool. Think about that for a second. Questions as a learning tool. If questions are a learning tool, then you want to take as many questions as possible and use them to learn. In other words, use them to find your knowledge gaps. Look at them as fun. Look at them as a way of finding those gaps before your friends at PMI find those gaps, right? That's the mindset. Do the questions open book at times if you need it. If you need to rely a little bit on those books, the bottom line is finding what you don't know. Close the gaps. Once you find the gaps, rejoice at the gaps. PMI uses the concept of pre-test questions as well. So there's no point feeling discouraged about finding gaps. Instead, you should be rejoicing about those gaps you found. Now, the mindset that you don't want to have is the quadged mindset. It sounds like squashed. The squashed mindset is one of questions as a judgment tool. A lot of people have a bad habit of using questions as a judgment tool. They get frustrated when they don't get the question right. They get discouraged. Do not do that. Don't get frustrated. Don't get discouraged. And don't tell yourself you're not doing well. Other negative self-talk has to stop. A lot of people have a bad habit of saying, oh, person X got it right, I got it wrong. Stop doing that. Stop comparing yourself to other people because questions are different. Even on the exam, you can get questions across a wide domain that are wildly different from person to person. So PMI can do that as far as their quadged mindset because they're judging you based on the final exam, but you don't do that. Not until you get into the final should you even concern yourself with this concept. I've had tons and tons and tons of students get 40s out of 100, get, watch this, high 30s out of 100. And guess what? Those students bounced back, closed the gaps, and did crazily better than their peers who were scoring in the 70s, 80s. So I decided to make this video to tell you, stop the negative mindset of questions as a judgment tool. Instead, think about questions as a learning tool. All right. Now, let's take a look at a couple of questions that could easily throw you off if you're new to this world of PMP journey and you begin to study and you find a question like this and you answer one way, but you find out that the correct answer is something different. Let's examine why this could happen. Okay. The Requirements Traceability Matrix is a grid that links product requirements from their origin to the deliverables that satisfy them. Now, the mention of Requirements Traceability Matrix right here is totally redundant because the question then says, in which process do you decide how project and product requirements will be analyzed, documented, and managed? So this was talked about in the very first process. And the very first process is known as plan, scope, management, right? So if in plan, scope, management, you got an idea about how these requirements will be analyzed, documented, and managed, and you are paying close attention, you would know that this is done in a process, not an output. Let's zoom into this because this could be pretty frustrating if you don't rationalize correctly. In which process? Okay. So it cannot be requirements management plan because that is not a process. That is why the answer is what it is. Apart from the fact that it's blatantly mentioned in plan scope management, you can also see that it cannot be the first option of requirements management plan, okay? So I hope that clarifies that question. Let's go to another question. Now, at the beginning of every section, you have something known as concepts, trends, tailoring, and consideration for Agile. So assuming you were just getting into chapter 5, you opened up your book and you read the beginning as I advise you should, okay? Now, if you had gone through the beginning, you would begin to get used to certain lingo about this, okay? And remember what I said about the questions as a learning tool mindset? The Project Management Institute will give you questions on the exam that you have never seen before, concepts that you've never seen before. It's called pre-test questions. So if you come across a question like this, even if you've not studied Agile, you can use your judgment to choose. And if you get the question wrong, so what? At least you've learned something. So the answer to this is product backlog. Even if you hadn't heard of that before, well, guess what? Now you have that knowledge because it's not talked about in plan scope management, but the goal is learning. And that's why the quizzes on our learning system, they're not all according to the videos on the system. Sometimes we get you further ahead by testing you on stuff coming up later. It helps keep your attention. And if you're feeling discouraged about that, don't be, because that's the nature of the beast. There's a boatload of stuff to learn for this exam, okay? And the quicker we introduce you to it in an intentional, deliberate fashion, the better. In closing, I also want to urge you, no matter who you're training with, whether you're training with me, whether you're training with another coach, hopefully a very capable coach, just like me, I want you to trust the process. The process you're going through, tested and tried, hopefully, people have gone through it, and people have proven, hey, this works. Adopt that same mindset. If my coach asked me to do this question, asked me to do this set of stuff, I better do it. Okay? So I want you to think critically about this program. Thousands of people have been through it. And even though at times it might seem, oh, that's redundant. Oh, I've done that before. Oh, this seems to be a little bit off. I want you to trust the process and you will succeed. But you got to stay there, dogged, rugged, and tough. Take care and all the very best in your prep. Keep on chugging, keep on trucking, drink the Kool-Aid, don't stop.